Hello, it's Nikki and it's Monday, and on a Monday we talk about goal setting and dreaming big and doing what you love and making a plan and making it happen and all of those great things. Today I want to talk about a long-term relationship. I know, I'm going there. But it's a really interesting place and space to be when it comes to goal setting, because as much as it's useful to have those short-term goals, knowing what you're doing, being accountable, I think we have to account for the fact that sometimes things take longer and they get hard and they're stretchy and they go on twists and turns and maybe are not straightforward. And so we have to ask ourselves if we're still going to do the things, because it's so easy that as soon as it gets hard, you want to run, you want to do something different, you want to change your mind, all of these things. And I was thinking about dating, actually, those differences between wanting to have a nice time, interpret that as you will, or be in a relationship with somebody. And I think that depending on your mindset, you show up differently, you communicate differently, you commit differently, you're in a different kind of conversation, a different vibe, a different space. And so I want to try this on today in terms of your goals, because I know that you want to do things. I know that you want to be, do, have, and feel all these great things in your life. So let's have a look. Number one, I want you to get very familiar with your current reality regarding this goal, regarding where you're up to, regarding what it's going to take, regarding the rules of the game, essentially. Because what I find is sometimes people set goals and they allow them to kind of float out there in the distance, but they're sort of not connected to it in a way. It's almost like they've got a javelin, they've thrown the javelin, and now it's kind of not connected to their body anymore. And they just kind of leave it. Like, yeah, I've taken my shot and now I walk away. And the thing is about growing a goal and creating this next chapter of your life is it's a relationship. It's a daily conversation. It's you and your goal walking and moving together like it would be if it was a human relationship. I know that we get busy. I am not perfect either. I'm not professing that, I'm sitting reading poetry every night to my partner of nearly 20 years. I'm not. I would, if he asked me to, I would. But it's all to do with the what's happening, what's going on, and really being clear about the reality. And so I want you to firstly journal about this goal and ask yourself, are you up for this? Are you up for, and I've heard so many times people saying their wedding vows, for example, are you up for the good and the bad and the hard and richer for poorer, for, all of those things? And really, really be in it, really be in the reality. And I know sometimes people go, well, no, because that's like taking the fun out of it, or that makes it feel hard. But do you know what? If you can do that and still continue to move forward, you're going to make progress. And you're also going to feel like you're actually trying, you're actually in it, rather than just taking your shot, throwing something out there, hoping for the best and not doing the things. Number two, I want you just for a moment to imagine that you are not going to get this goal, that you are not going to do anything further with this goal. So say you want to one day live by the sea, and you can see it's in your future. Maybe you have a timeline, maybe 5 years from now, this will happen and this will happen. I want you to play with the idea that this may never happen. And that's not to be a scaremonger or anything like that, but it is to test how much you want this. Are you all in with this? Or is it something that's just nice to say or nice to think about having? And this has been a great test for me over time when I've come to making decisions. I think about the path that I would take if it all came to plan, but I also play around with the idea of what if I did nothing? What if I just stayed the same? What if this dream that I had just suddenly fizzled out and I ignored it and I let it go? And sometimes those things have happened. Those moments where I'm like, yeah, this doesn't feel in alignment anymore. The dream has changed. There's different things in here now. And that is a really useful exercise because it shows where your commitment is, where your connection is with the goal. And sometimes when I do that, it can reveal that I am not in connection. I am not in communication with this goal. And so therefore, what do I want to, or what do I need to do about that? Number 3, I get really connected from lots of different sides in this goal. So sometimes I look at the why behind the why. Why is this goal important to me? And not just, I'm sure people go, I want a big house just so I can show off to my friends. But it's about really stretching that. Why is this important? Why? And we've realized this over the years is, when we think about if we move again one day, what would be different? What are we missing here? What would we like? What tweaks would we make? What are things that are important to us, less important to us? And so I really get connected with that why, and I bring up those pictures in my head so I can really sit in that. I also think about legacy a lot. What is the wider mission here? What impact, what change do I want to create? I go there with this. I also connect with that little girl version of me as well. And sometimes she, within me, is really helpful because that little girl, and I would say for the majority of primary school, was very determined. She was sharp. She was ready to go. She was really bold. She was really fearless. She was very connected to who she was, what felt good. And sometimes I like to lean on her and bring a bit more of her, because adult version of me can be like, well, how could this even be possible? Especially on those days if I'm in self-doubt or anything like that. And so bringing her in is really important in guiding this long-term relationship, because that little girl version of me is, go on, keep going. We said that we was never going to be easy. We can just keep going. I've got energy. I've got vibrancy. And that's really helpful for me. Number 4, I want you to play and try on this garden analogy. And this is an interesting one, especially with goals, is that especially when we see things on Instagram or social media, we see things that are very quickly finished and perfected. And I want to say the opposite, actually, that it's a process and it's a project, almost like a garden. So this garden, yes, of course, you could change things around overnight and stick some plants in, but when you are planning, you don't necessarily know what that garden is going to provide. You don't know where the sun hits. You don't know what the seasons are going to be like. You don't know what's going to grow, when it's going to grow. And also, everything has this sort of seasonal cycle. So in the beginning, you might have to do some hardcore digging, some wheelbarrow action, some weeding, some shifting of massive pots that haven't been moved for a while. We have to do this in our own life sometimes. Get rid of the weeds and have a good clear out. And then, of course, there's that moment where we begin to really think about the plants that we want, the seeds that we want to sow, the plants we want to see, the flowers we want to bloom. And in that process, it can take some time too, because we want the plants immediately. Well, what if they don't come immediately? What if they're not ready? What if all of this is going to take some time? That's okay too. And finally, there will become that point where things will grow, things will blossom, but equally they will come to their natural end as well. So what are you going to do in those moments in terms of your goal? Finally, following on from that garden analogy, I want you to think about this long-term relationship with your goals and really think about what are those daily, weekly, monthly, yearly actions that you will need to take in order to maintain that relationship. Now, once things are up and running, you may just have to go back to the garden analogy, go back to a bit of weeding, go back to a quick water. However, in order to be of service to the big vision, there are going to equally be times where you say to yourself, that thing has got to go. That thing is not working that plant is not working alongside everything else. And so I want you to give yourself permission as we go through this to be bold, to be brave, to be decisive, to be discerning, to be in tune with what is necessary. Because that passive approach of, I'll just see what happens. Yes, you might get some lovely golden nuggets along the way, but generally what is required of you is that conversation, is that fine tuning, that in and out, that daily action, that conversation. And that's where the magic is. If you want help with goal setting, I would love to help and support you. Jam and Plan is a great place to start, especially if you want to look at your business and growing it and doing brilliant things. Secondly, if you want to work with me personally over a strategy session or a bit longer, send me a message, check out my Work With Me page, and I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Bye.